Everybody, just because I frankly could not let it go. We had a conversation regarding the use of AI in interviewing, and ChatGPT does have a voice mode, and it shows up as an icon down here in a new search. It'll look like a little megaphone with lines made out of lines, excuse me. And I asked the question up here, if I use your voice mode, are you able to listen to a question that is asked in a conference call and provide an answer based on what you know of me? If so, how would you formulate the answer? Now, just so you know, over here to the left, if you've not used ChatGPT, this is the entire conversation, search history, etc. I've had with ChatGPT for several years now. I think there's a timestamp in here, it's 2024. I know it goes back further than that, but you have like just different, a translated legal document I've put in there, personal training essentials, personal journey or fitness journey guide, stuff like that, where I've used this as a tool not only for my own personal use, but professional use. Like I'll have my students in one assignment. I just wrote the assignment where the students have to use ChatGPT to source information, and ChatGPT has to then create a response that is inclusive of that is in APA style and provide sources cited, and the students are to take the sources cited provided by ChatGPT and go to Google Scholar to cross-reference those. I make it a point to have them do that exercise because sometimes what ChatGPT coughs up is not correct. And it would be plagiarism. So, I want my students to learn that. Anyways, I digress. Let's go back to what we talked about today. ChatGPT fired back, I can't listen on live calls, but if you summarize a question, I can provide a tailored response. So for example, it took like this kind of generic question I've posed to it, and it came up with this based off the conversations we've had over here to the left. For example, if someone on a conference call asks about strategies to improve athlete retention through strength and conditioning, which is right in my wheelhouse compared to all the content over here to the left, and the artificial intelligence is presuming that's the question I would ask at this point because we've had a lot of dialogue back and forth regarding strength and conditioning. And it provides this paragraph regarding athlete retention being closely tied to performance outcomes. Okay, so then I ask, what is the voice feature for then? It allows you to have a live back and forth conversation with ChatGPT, so it's fine, but still, it's not as though it can listen in on a particular call on like a WebEx. Okay, I asked because I'm a hiring committee and the candidate would take unusually long to pause after questions. I thought he might be using some type of voice to text Dragon, if you're familiar with Dragon, or similar, and he was reading a response back to us. And this is great. I love this. That's interesting observation. It's possible that they were using voice to text or even AI, especially if the pauses were long and consistent. Another possibility is that they were just taking extra time to think through their responses carefully, which could be a sign of nerves or deliberate communication style, which I think is hilarious that you have artificial intelligence that is supporting and or being supportive of the behavior of a human being. I just think that's absolutely hilarious. And they also, the ChatGPT also goes in a little bit further. Some candidates may also be reading from pre-prepared notes, which could account for the delay. So I love how it's like rationalizing and justifying the behavior of a human being. I can't get over that. But if did they seem overly polished or generic? Like were they fully engaging with the specifics? And I sent back the answers were congruent and they were genuine to the experiences of the person. And so it fires back, that's a good sign. It could just be a deliberate strategy to ensure they're answering thoughtfully rather than rushing. I think we sussed that out in our conversation back and forth, so I'm not going to belabor this. So I thought at this point, I'm going to take this a little further. Given the amount of correspondence we've had with school, work, etc., which is all this stuff over here to the left, I'm fairly certain you might be able to formulate an answer based on our exchanges. Care to try a question? And ChatGPT says, yeah, sure, hold my beer. And I go, okay, this will be great. Here we go. And so you may recall this question. Please provide examples of what you have done simultaneously to build strong leadership teams, maintain accountability. What would you do during your first year? That is the question I posed to ChatGPT, acting as me and taking our entire narrative, our entire body of work to the left and creating an answer from that body of work. And here's what it gave me. Building strong leadership teams while maintaining accountability requires a combination of clear expectations and open communication. For example, in my role as Vice President of Operations and General Manager, this is sidebar stuff, cross-functional teams, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I just thought it was interesting because you get down here at Harper College, my first year, will be focused on gaining insight into the existing leadership structure, identifying strengths, and addressing potential gaps. This would involve conducting listening sessions, assessing institutional data, building relationships, and developing a leadership framework, which was hauntingly close to what this gentleman was saying anyways. Oh my goodness. So with that, again, this was kind of an itch I had to scratch. I took a cut and paste of all this, or this exchange between myself and ChatGPT. It's in a document attached to this email. I just thought this was incredibly interesting exercise to be able to go through and kind of see how ChatGPT would handle this in terms of knowing me. So you can just imagine if there's somebody who's a candidate who's pretty savvy and they've loaded in their resume, they've loaded in their body of work, they've had a series of exchanges back and forth with ChatGPT, and they have 15 minutes to read the questions to ChatGPT, well, AI can come up with answers for them. Just saying. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I'm sure we can talk about this further, but thank you so much for hearing me out. Again, it was just something I couldn't let go when we were done with our call. Have a good night.